Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got Coach Henry Torano with me, and I threw him a curveball today when we were talking about the topic. I asked him if he'd be willing to talk about some of the hardest moments that he's had in health and fitness. And I think I lucked out that I asked him a couple hours prior to the show because that's a question that I think could take a lot of people in a lot of different places. So I appreciate him coming on and having this conversation. But Henry, why did you react that way? Why did you say that you would need a little bit of time on this question when I asked you that?
Well, it's definitely something that requires some thinking and just reflecting on past experiences to try to figure out, was it actually difficulties or obstacles in fitness per se, or were there just times when I was having a hard time in life and it kind of felt like everything was dragged into that as well. And um, yeah, you'll see that like the two stories that I'm going to share actually do involve a little bit of both. Um, Yeah, it's a solid topic. I'm
Re-
excited.
Really quickly, why do you think those hard moments can often include more than just fitness? Why do you think that often they get into the life aspect of it?
Well, I'm suggesting that it's life problems, and then everything just kind of gets dragged into it, right? Because of what we know, and we kind of think about it in the opposite way, as far as why is your fitness suffering, and it's because you're stressed out, and because of that you're not sleeping, and because of that you may not be making the right nutrition decisions, and everything just starts feeling off.
I think, um, gosh, when I think about this, there's so many things that could come to mind. But do me a favor, will you share the first story with us that you were thinking about?
Yep, absolutely. So this goes back to, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years ago, and it's really my story, and my experience when I started triathlon. Uh, because I got really very involved in it. Um, it filled a void at that moment as far as what I was going to do for competition. And I literally, it's funny the timing too, because I literally woke up on New Year's Day, and of course I was partying the previous night. I wasn't feeling very athletic that morning, but I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like I want to train. I just decided that I wasn't gonna play semi-pro football anymore. So I'm like, I want to compete in something, and I called Manny, a buddy of mine who was just starting to get into triathlon, and it was the first year for Ironman San Juan. Picked up the phone, like, hey, what are you guys doing tomorrow for training? They're like, oh, we're gonna be we have a bike ride. I'm like, well, shit. I done some cycling a couple years ago, or before that, and I don't have a bike right now. What are you doing the next day? He's like, we're swimming. I'm like, I'm gonna go to the pool, and then I'm gonna do a little running tomorrow instead. And that's kind of how I got started into it. So I get really pumped for this race, which is San Juan, the first version of San Juan Ironman. Again, this is January 1st, and the race is some like April 10. So I've got like 4 months to train for it. It's not that bad. Like when I show up to the pool 2 days later, like the coach there, I like sign up, and he's like, "So what did you do for running yesterday?" I'm like, "Oh, I just ran 12 miles." He's like, "You can run 12 miles?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty easy for me." Swimming, that's going to be another story though. So, anyways, we go at it for 4 months, show up to the race, and of course, I learned the hard way of what people, the story that people often tell regarding how to manage inter-race nutrition and hydration. And it's the run, and I do fairly well in the swim. I do as expected on the bike, and I'm a runner. But it's a two-loop course. Second loop, my stomach just turns completely on me. Um, I have a little bit of a phobia for throwing up since I was a kid. So I'm trying to hold all this in, and I literally have to throw up. And it just gets to a point where I start like coughing up vomit, and it's just like flying out of me. I get so anxious that I'm literally crying. Like there's tears coming out of my eyes because every time I throw up, I feel like I'm dying. Honestly, I don't even know why this happens, but it's just fact. Um, So that entire experience of I couldn't run and perform because of my gut. And I still didn't understand it. But fast forward to August that year, 4 months later, I'm in Canada doing my first Ironman, full Ironman. Same deal. Get off the bike like a champ, come out running. Mile 3, I'm like, ooh, I'm going into a porta john. I go in there, I'm not even going to describe it all that much, but I come out a hell of a lot lighter, and I'm like, okay, I'm good to go now. 10 minutes later, I got to go again, back into a porta john. Next porta john, 1 kilometer later, I got to go again. And by mile 8, there's nothing in me. I can't drink water because I just, it makes me have to go. So I just realized that shit, I'm going to be walking 18 miles here. And it's not that I walked them, it's that the people that were walking were passing me as if they were sprinting. Uh, I was literally in a trance because of not having any, calories in me, not being able to drink water. I can't swallow water anyways. I'm slushing it in my mouth, spitting it out just to get that pasty stuff out of there. Um, all I can remember it was literally a trance. I remember looking at the curb and saying, maybe if I just stopped and sat there for a minute, maybe like I could gather myself and keep walking. But like this little voice inside me said, dude, do not stop. Like if you stop and sit, you may just like faint. Um, yeah, so it was a very long walk on that day. Um, and that just like I mean it's a shitty experience when I think back to it. So many reasons as to why I shouldn't even have done any of those races, knowing what I know now. But it opened up so much as far as what I would do to take that into my own hands. Um, I'd say that we weren't exposed, or the information that we have today wasn't available even 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe it was. I'm just so deep in it now that I see it everywhere. But I didn't know who to call. Like I didn't know where else to go for coaching. I didn't know to find like actual sport nutrition experts. So I went to the nutritionist. I don't want to say regular nutritionist. He's a great guy, but definitely not. His specialty wasn't performance. And I heard what he had to say. Um, I saw this woman who actually helped me a lot just in reading her work and a few emails that she replied to. Dr. Stacy Sims. I saw her on some triathlete magazines. She worked with Lance Armstrong. She gave me some tips. All of a sudden, I found paleo. Believe it or not, I tried to do paleo while I was doing triathlon. It was fantastic until I started doing 3-hour plus training days. And that didn't go so well. But then I started like putting all of this together. And I'm able to kind of figure out like, this is what I need for up to 3 hours. This is what I want to do past that. No more gels. I'm packing real food. And yeah, I was the dude in the course with 6 sandwiches on me for the bike. Like literally just bread and turkey in those sandwiches. Um, I go to a sports psychologist, and I'm 100% certain that the limiter is not a psychological issue, but I do know that I'm like completely freaking out when these things come up because I'm like, oh, here it is again,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and that was great to talk to her as well because she's like when I explain my background, she's like, dude, you can't. This is not a football game. You can't like go tunnel vision before in a 12-hour race and be ready to rip people's heads off like before because the gun goes off and I'm wanting to like go and everybody's like chill, right? Because like shit, it's 5 a.m. and this ends at like 5 p.m. Um, then she gave me some tips and she said you need to think of 3 songs, one that calms you down, one that you're gonna play in your head when you're in the rhythm, and one that you play in your head when you need to like dig deep and like it's time to go. And that was great as well. Like I used that very effectively. Um, yeah, that was one point, like the first time in my life where like the athletic or the sport obstacle was so big that I just couldn't like outwork it right now. And like I had to really figure out how to structure things and put them together in a way that maybe they didn't make sense with the literature, but it was what worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's such a great experience because it ties into so much of what we're doing now. to actually be able to have gone through that. And man, it was hard, like not knowing, like, okay, so what do I even Google to
Hmm.
figure out or find information on the information that I'm looking for. Um,
It seems to like so much of this is, I don't know, investigative trial and error as well, where you might be perfect on bread and turkey, somebody else might be good on, I don't know, tortilla and chicken, you know what I mean? And so much of that though isn't tested in a methodical way, so when you get to the starting line, when it counts, you don't really know. And I think that there could be so much uncertainty. That uncertainty creates stress in people's minds too, right? Like you're like, I don't know what's going on and I'm upset about it. What would you say some people listening to this could take away from that type of an experience? What could they do to perhaps be more certain or have more confidence in getting through those tough moments?
um, yeah. So for one, um, this just solidifies, my belief in not trying to fast track shit. If you asked me today, I should have never even have attempted a full Ironman. It wasn't, and you look at my half Ironman times, and I actually posted a fairly decent time there, but then it doesn't make sense with the full. And like even talking to James, and just again knowing what I know now, I'm like, yeah, because I shouldn't have done like full Ironmans for another 3 years. I needed
Hmm.
all that training in me for what I wanted, right? You know, I wanted a sub 10 hour um, Ironman. Um, so like definitely enjoying the process. There was a lot to enjoy in there, and I do look back and think of like a lot of good times, but a lot of pressure that I put in myself because of that end goal or that time, like not seeing a 10 on the clock when I crossed the finish line. Um, then of course, seeking advice, and people listening to this already obviously know of at least one company who has some pretty decent coaches. Um, that would have been like huge to have, that relationship based, um, yeah, relationship uh,
That's
with
something
somebody.
that I respect greatly about you. And if you're listening to this, know that Henry is willing to have a conversation with anybody that he believes would be beneficial to him or his clients or whoever he's working with. I don't think enough people are willing to do that. It's like if you're trying to be the best at something, be it fitness, health, wellness, work, parenting, why not have more of those conversations? And of course, it's easy for me to say, right? Like I'm not actually doing the thing right now, but gosh, I respect you for that. And I can't imagine how much you've picked up from the conversations that you've been willing to have.
Oh yeah, I mean, what's the saying? You learn by teaching, something
Hmm.
like that. Like every time I have these conversations with a client, and they feel like I've taught them so much, and I just feel like I upped my game
Yeah.
tremendously by listening to like their account of the story and like their reasoning for things and their mechanisms of dealing with things. And it's not only like, oh, now I know what to do next time that somebody has your problem. No, it's like this is, stuff that will make me grow. Like I can
Hmm.
implement a lot of this stuff as well. um and then also the biggest thing there is, when you have that coach or the mentor or however you want to call it, yes, a lot of it is highly individualized, but I can tell you a ton of shit that will not work for anybody.
Yep.
Like these are just mistakes, and maybe you don't need to make them. Like there's plenty enough people who've made them before, and at least we can bypass some of those and like get you on somewhat of a better place to start your trial and error.
Oh, that's such a good point too. Henry, let's do this. Let's hold the second piece until our next call because I think that we can go down some interesting rabbit holes on that one as well. So I really appreciate you coming on this one, and I'm really looking forward to the next conversation we've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, man. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Woof.